Okay, we're going to prepare the Saltimbocca. Now, your recipe in your recipe book calls for veal. And I don't have veal at home, but I do have this wonderful wild pheasant, so I'm going to use that instead. You could use chicken or pork. Any light, tender meat is going to work good. So we're going to pound this out flat, and I'm going to use a meat mallet. Now, how to use one of these things proper, I think the small teeth are the best teeth. The big teeth are just too aggressive. We're going to shred the whole thing. And some people like to use the flat side, but the trouble with the flat side is it's not really flat. It's a bit curved. And what I'm looking for is a nice flat product at the end. So I'm going to use the flat side here and put a piece of plastic over top to protect it. And when the hammer comes in contact with the food, try to make sure it's level, not tilted or twisted like that. And I'm going to hammer it out. I'm going to feel it just to make sure that it's nice and flat. And then because this is pheasant breast here, I've got a little bit of sinew in there. I'm going to just use a little paring knife to pull out. Okay, so I've got all the pheasant pounded out now. And we're going to season it. Now, it's a thin piece, so we probably don't have to season both sides, but I kind of always do, just kind of as a rule. Now, given that this was wild meat, it was actually kind of good to pound it nice and thin like this because I found one pellet left in it, which you don't have to worry about with veal, that's for sure. All right. Seasoned. Now we're going to use prosciutto and fresh sage. So we're going to put some leaves. If you've got large leaves, that's better. And we'll just lay those across. 1, 2, 3 pieces. Save your stems. We'll be able to use that for sure. This is a very classic Italian dish, and like most classic Italian dishes, it's really simple but really delicious, which is why chefs love Italian food. Good ingredients, done simply, really, really makes a nice dish. All right, that looks good. Okay, I've got some pre-sliced prosciutto here, and basically cover one whole side of the veal, in this case pheasant. Okay, now what I'm going to do is secure them with some toothpicks. So just sort of thread that on there, and that's just going to hold it all together for the cooking process. So I will pause the video, get that sorted out. Okay, so now we're going to pan fry it. I'm preheating my pan, and I'm going to dredge them in flour and then cook them with the ham side down first. So my advice for dredging anything in flour is dredge it in flour as it's going into the pan. If you dredge it in flour and let it sit for a little while, then what happens is the flour will hydrate, and basically you make a batter instead of a dusting, and that's not what we're after. Okay, so how do we tell when our pan is hot enough? What we don't want is beating hot. What we want is sizzling, and I think we're good there. I think the recipe says butter. I'm going to use a little combination of olive oil and butter. And I have more meat than will fit in my pan at one time. So I'm just going to do them in batches, transfer them to a clean tray. Now regulate your heat, okay? So keep an eye on it. If it starts to brown around the edges, then I've got too much heat. So we want it to just start to see a little bit of browning, but not a lot. So always you have to monitor the heat and adjust it, make small adjustments for sure. Otherwise, Anybody could do it. We're professional cooks. So it's coming along. We're going to cook it basically pretty much medium well by the time it's done. So it's not going to take too long. Maybe about 3 minutes on the first side and 2 minutes on the second side, something like that. Okay, I can see just as it's starting to cook through on the edges there, it's ready to flip. I'll flip it over. Give it another 2 minutes and I'll transfer it to a tray. I'll take the toothpicks out. We don't want to serve toothpicks. I'll do the next batch and then we'll make a sauce in the pan. Okay, it's done. Now I'm going to add some chopped shallots. If there's not enough fat in the pan, we could add just a little touch more butter. If you mince your shallots nice and small, then this doesn't take very long. We just want those to soften. I'm going to turn my fan on. I already set the fire alarm off, or the smoke detector off. We're going to add some Masella wine here. Okay. Go touch more. Okay. Deglaze all the yummy bits off the pan. We're going to add some chicken stock. Might as well add that sage that we had, the stems and such. And non-traditional, we're going to add some capers. You wouldn't normally find that in Saltimbocca, but it adds a nice little brininess to it. Alright, so there's the veal there. I've got a soft polenta and then some simple spinach and onions, really quick dinner for us here at home. Okay, we're going to reduce this down just a touch. And then we're going to mount it with butter. And mounting with butter is the same thing as making a beurre blanc or beurre Monte. Same rules apply. We're going to add butter, not let it simmer, and not let it stop moving. And it'll be thick when it's ready. And if we do it poorly, it'll break and be thin. So, take my sage out. I'm going to reduce my heat all the way down. In fact, I'm going to take it off the heat a little bit. And we'll add some butter and we'll mount it in there. So you don't need a whisk, but it's really important that it keeps moving. And the reason I shake the pan is because if I'm stirring over here and there's butter there, it's not moving. So if you do both, it just thickens a little bit, makes it shiny. We need some parsley, and then it's pretty rich, so we'll balance it with a little touch of acid. Voila! Ready to go. And that's it. Okay, there we go. Pheasant Saltimbocca. This flavor combination is very successful. You could try it with chicken, veal, pork. You could even wrap halibut with prosciutto. I wouldn't pan fry it, but you could bake it. The combination of prosciutto and sage, excellent. Give it a try.